Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Rich Fettke. Thanks for being on the show, Rich.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Rich is the co-CEO of the Real Wealth Network, a three-time Inc. 5,000 ranked real estate investment company with 22 employees and over 46,000 members. He's a licensed real estate broker and investor. Rich is also a master certified business coach and author of the book Extreme Success. With a love for adventure sports, Rich has, and I was impressed that this is a lot of incredible sports that you're good at or that you're doing. He's competed in ESPN X Games and is a record-holding bungee jumper, skydiver, rock climber, skier, and surfer. Now, how do you do all those things? That's incredible. He is happily.
It's like the business we're in, right, is creating passive income so we can have some free times to live life on our own terms. So
I love it.
Getting out there and creating that. But yeah, I don't know, maybe a adrenaline addiction, maybe.
No, that's some awesome sports to be doing as well. But happily married to his co-CEO, Kathy Fettke, who you all heard on the show, just on show 264, which I would encourage you to go back and listen to. Rich, thank you so much. Oh, and wonderful. You said in your bio too, it says you have two wonderful daughters, and I think you have a grandchild on the way. Congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited.
Yeah. So, thank you again. Give us a little bit about, you a little bit in case the listeners haven't heard of you before. And then let's dive into just integrating how you're integrating teams and growing your all's business and how you're managing those things.
Of course. Yeah. I met Kathy 23 years ago in a personal development workshop. And in the beginning, they say you set three goals, personal and professional goals. And when I met her, I realized that one of my goals was going to be her. And it worked out pretty good. So we've been married 22 years and founded Real Wealth Network in 2003. And it was a real focus around, there were so many groups out there. Kathy was a mortgage broker for a while. She had a radio show and she was doing mortgages, and she was going around and being invited to speak at these different RIAs and these clubs. And she was realizing that a lot of them were selling outdated programs or doing the guru thing and pushing people to the back of the room. So she came home and just said, I'd love to create something just with real people, just focused to really help investors and keep it authentic and transparent and everything. And so it was kind of the birth of, that's why we called it Real Wealth Network. Real Wealth really about not just about making tons of money, which is great, but also about how you can live life on your own terms, have the freedom of time to also enjoy it.
No, that's great. And I thought it may be useful to share with listeners like your role in this company, kind of like you did with me before we got started, you and Kathy, and that way we can kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathy's very much, as you know, she's a real estate expert. She knows market timing. That's what she studies all the time. And she's great up on the platform and on a mic like this, much better than I am. I'm very much behind the scenes at Real Wealth Network and always have been very much about my main focus is the culture of our company. With 22 employees, we have 18 independent contractors. Having a cohesive team and a strong culture is absolutely vital to be able to grow in any type of business, but especially syndication business where people have to really communicate and get along well. And we have some big goals at Real Wealth Network.
Love it. So, and both roles are so important, right? But your roles specifically, you're integrating this team, you're helping everybody to communicate. You're doing so many things. But you mentioned the culture of the company. Can you elaborate? What is that? Why is that important?
We're very much a conscious capitalism company. So we very much focus not just about only profits, which a lot of just capitalism company do. With conscious capitalism, it's more about also caring about how are we impacting society? What are we doing for our partners, the developers we work with, our affiliates that we work with, our investors, our employees, all that. So we look at it in a big way like that, a bigger one. And so very much about kind of a purpose-driven organization. So we're about helping, we set a mission for 2020 back in 2013. By the end of 2020, we want to help over 50,000 people create real wealth. And we also want to raise over $1 million for Habitat for Humanity, Operation Smile, Youth Opportunity Center. So it's really, and Mentors International. So really important to us, like bringing the team together where everyone's cohesive and working toward this big vision. And that's what's been amazing for us as far as a company for profitability. That's how we got Inc. 5000 3 times in 3 years in a row and all that. So I feel like my big role is that it's constantly working on the business, looking at the big picture, how we getting along, what's working, what's not working, how can we be better, what are our big 3 goals for the year, what are our big 3 goals for the quarter, doing a lot of that type of work.
Nice. So I like how you mentioned like purpose-driven company. It's not just about us and internally making a lot of money. I mean, you mentioned numerous goals there and big goals of helping all these other organizations. That's incredible. And so, how did you begin to implement things like this? Like, how did you learn to grow a team like this and to operate a team? What are some crucial things that really helped you to develop this team and make it operate like this?
I learned a lot of lessons when I was a young man. At 23 years old, I opened up a health club franchise, a World Gym back in Boston, and built that up at surprisingly 23 employees, almost the same as we have today. And just learned from the bumps and bruises of failing and screwing up and having people upset and everything, and started to learn how to build a culture of happy, people we have this strong culture. And when you have a strong culture, it's like, I think you can trust everyone to do the right thing. You don't have to be looking over their shoulder, telling them what to do. You can really say, you don't have a job, you have responsibilities. Like, these are your big goals. So I think it came from that, running that health club way back when. And then when I moved to California, I became a certified coach. So then for 15 years, I worked as a coach in companies and working with executives on how to be more effective, how to, really a real coactive coaching model where it's asking and drawing out from the client instead of saying, this is what you need to do. So I think using those coaching skills and asking powerful questions of our team and our leaders, I think that's really helped us.
Okay. So, you mentioned like trusting everyone to do the right thing. So how did you build a team like that? I guess give us a couple of key things to building that team where we can trust everyone to do the right thing and we're not looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, it starts small. It's like in the beginning, I was the chief support guy at Rolf Network, and Kathy was out there, the CEO, and she's charging ahead and everything. I would be making the website and all. But what we did is we created jobs for ourselves and not a business. And we wanted to have passive income through the business, but also, to create what they call in Strategic Coach, a self-managing company. So I think that's a key, is stepping back and saying, okay, where do I want this company to be? If you have a syndication company, like, where do you want it to be in 5 years? And create an organizational chart based on that. So 5 years from today, right now, you might have sales and marketing and research and IT and all this, and you might have your face in all of those different boxes. But then you look ahead and you say, in the future, when am I going to hire this person for IT? And our first hire was a bookkeeper at Real Wealth Network. We did the old shoebox thing, and we're so busy with the business, trying to run the business, that it's like the receipts just thrown into the shoebox. And so we said, okay, we gotta do our first hire, and we hired a bookkeeper, and then Kathy got an assistant. And actually, her assistant came out of college. She was young. I think she was 22, 23, and now she's been with us for over 10 years, and now she's our director of syndications. So she learned a lot along the way and constantly educating and schooling herself. So we look at the values of people, what's really important to them. And like Maggie, who's our director of syndications now, she has this passion for learning and growing, which is one of our core values at Real Wealth. It's mastery.
Wow. So you said you look at the values of people. So how do you draw that out? How do you decipher that? I guess maybe through an interview process or as you're getting to know someone.
Great question. Yeah. So, we have our core values. It's like accountability, transparency, integrity. We have these 5 core values. So in that interview process, you kind of say like, well, how do you feel about integrity? Tell me about a time in one of your old jobs when your integrity might have been challenged, but you came through and it worked. And then they tell you the story. Or tell me about, do you like to learn? Do you like to grow? And if they say, oh yeah, I love to do that, which most people will, it's like, so tell me, what in the last year, what have you done to improve yourself and to grow? And so you can kind of read that and then see if there's like, oh, they can't think of anything. you have a sense they might not be into mastery or growth or anything like that. So I think that's a key.
Okay. So good questions, right?
Good questions. Always important.
So, what are some problems, I guess, right, that you have to deal with, as far as, and maybe you dealt with early on, maybe you don't now, but as far as working with this team and in creating these values and things that we should be thinking about early on in our syndication business?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be challenges, even
Right.
today. We have, so when you get a team of 22 people and it's different personalities and all, um, I'm a big one for us, and we actually had to revisit our values a few years ago. A big one for us was transparency. So we made that one of our core values because we were finding that as a company starts to get larger, you get 2 people, 3 people, it's very manageable. You get a fourth or a fifth, and all of a sudden the communication starts to pretty much grow exponentially. There's so many combinations of people trying to talk to each other that all of a sudden someone's irritated with someone else and they start to talk about that person to someone else. And then it finally gets around and all of a sudden there's this big blow up. So I think that's a core one, is just transparency. And so how do you do that? What we do is we do weekly meetings. Each department has a weekly meeting. And in that you say, is there anything going on with you that you want to bring up? Any challenges, any issues? Let's be transparent here, and you just throw it out, and no one gets to be wrong. That's our rule. No one gets to be wrong. So you can say anything and just say, I am feeling this, or this pissed me off, or whatever. And no one's going to jump on that. They're not going to get defensive. They're going to say, okay, let's talk it out and find out what's really going on.
So, and you all will meet with everyone individually, or you said each team individually?
Each team has their own team meeting each
Okay.
week. Usually it's about an hour for most teams. We do a 90-minute team for our leadership team, which is 5 people plus Kathy and me. So a very similar process. We run on EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. We've been doing that for the last 3 years. And I really think it's kind of brought the best of the best. I'm kind of obsessed with personal development, obviously, and growth and growing a company and all that. But EOS kind of brought together some of the best stuff of Strategic Coach and Rockefeller Habits and scaling up and all that. So and it's a single system. So it's been really great for us.
EOS. Okay, I've heard of that, and it's a part of Traction, right? The book.
Yeah,
Traction.
the book is Traction. Yeah, and it covers the EOS Entrepreneurial Operating System. So really good about how to have effective meetings, how to have what they call a vision and traction organizer, where everyone in the company is aligned. I mean, that's a huge one. It's like you might think that you have a vision for your company, but if you have like 3 or 4 employees or more, I assure you, they probably have a different vision if you're not communicating yours very clearly. So that's a real big one for a constant looking at where are we going. We get our whole team together once a year, all 22 employees. We treat them to somewhere really special. We've been up in Deer Valley in Utah. We've done ropes courses. We've rented segways, some fun stuff like that, team building. But we also get together and we talk about, okay, where are we going? Where are we going in 10 years? Where are we going in 5 years? What about 3 years? Really boil it down. And then what's this year about? What's the most important things for us to focus on this year? And then everyone's aligned. We're kind of like rowing the boat in the same direction.
Nice. So yeah, keeping everyone aligned, and I'd like to, I guess, talk about that a little bit more, and just how you all even communicate on a daily basis, and how you keep the team aligned, or even just communicating. I mean, that's many people working together. You all have obviously accomplished some amazing things, and have some big goals that you're pursuing. And so, what does that look like on a daily basis?
Actually, we create a lot of autonomy. So we have separate teams, and I try to not mingle in those teams or meddle in those teams. So we have a marketing department. There's like 8 people in that. They have a weekly meeting. They look at what's working. We always start our meetings with positive focus. I think when your brain is in a positive, optimistic place, you can be more creative and resourceful. So everyone starts off with this, what's positive, what's one professional positive thing and one personal positive thing. You start the meeting like that. You go in and everyone looks at kind of their numbers. Everyone on our company has a number. It doesn't matter what their position in. They have a number that they're trying to hit, whether it's a customer satisfaction score or a certain revenue deal or finding a deal, anything like that. Everyone's got a number. So they share that number and how they're doing with it, if it's on track or off track. And then they go into, are there any issues, anything we need to discuss, anything we need to go over? And they share that. They'll get those issues listed out. And then they'll talk it out and they'll say, okay, of these issues, what's the most important one for us to handle today? And then they talk it out. So that way, instead of Kathy or me trying to get in there and tell people what to do, it's way more empowering. It's like, what are your big goals for this quarter? And we trust that you're going to make that goal happen. If someone says they're off track in their weekly meeting, then the director of that meeting and that person is going to say, what do you need? What support do you need for that? How can we help you?
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I love the transparency there too. So if they do say, okay, I'm not there, I'm not making that goal, or, we're halfway through that timeline and I'm not going to make it. And you all are coming alongside and say, what do you need? You're assuming they're doing their best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also do a quarterly conversation. So everyone sits down with their boss, their direct report or whatever it is. They sit down and it's a really simple one. It's not like a performance review or anything. It's just what's working, what's not working, what did you learn from this last quarter, and what's next. It's really simple, but it's bringing the coaching skills and that coaching conversation ahead of, it's how we found out that Maggie, our director of syndications, we were sitting down, I was doing a quarterly review with her like that. We were talking about our quarter and I said, so what about, where do you see yourself in like 3 years to 5 years? What's the dream? If you could wave the magic wand, what would that look like? And she said, oh man, I'd love to be a digital nomad. I'd love to travel the world and work from my laptop. And so we're like, how can we make that happen? Let's not wait 3 to 5 years. And the next year she was traveling the world. She's been traveling the world for the last 3 years now, working from her laptop, running our whole syndication department. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. And if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have known that. And now look at her.
Yeah. So devoted. She loves it. We're like a family, which is really cool because having those conversations, not just the professional conversations, but also the personal ones, like what's going on for you, anything you're challenged by, what are you excited about in life? It's really cool. It lifts people up, and then you got a cohesive team. Nothing's more powerful than a cohesive team.
So in our, the syndication, I guess businesses, where we're normally probably 2 to 5 people, something like that,
Sure.
What are going to be, and you as a coach, some common things that, what are some common things that we need to be thinking about when just getting our team started, just on the right track? It's like we get so busy in the day to day, right? And it's hard to think about, well, what is our values? Where are we going 5 years from now?
Totally.
Or, are you doing okay? Like having those conversations with those employees instead of just being, just thinking about this deal, okay, what's going, just in the grind day to day. What are some issues with that, and how do we get out of that?
Yeah, I think that's the same issue for all of us. It's we get sucked into the work, right? Working in the business, which is important. We got to do that work, but we have to force ourselves to work on the business to kind of step back. Even if one of my favorite tips would be just sit down with a piece of paper, or a lined pad or whatever, get away from your office and sit down with a pen and that pad. And you just start thinking about the business. Where do you see it in 5 years? Where do you see it in 10 years? And it's amazing what comes out. And Kathy and I just actually day before yesterday, we went out to a nice restaurant here in Malibu. We sat down, I brought a pad and a pen, and we had this great meal. And then we just spent probably an hour and a half just looking at what's going on, any issues you want to talk about, any challenges, what are you most excited about? And kind of we got it all down on that pad of paper. And then from there, we talk it out and take each separate issue and say, let's talk this out. What's the solution? And then I think it's really important to say, okay, this is great. Now what's the action item? What's the to-do from this? And write that down. I like to put a little checkbox next to it, it means like it needs to be checked off. But actually, what is that to do that's going to come from this idea? Instead of having a whole bunch of ideas in your head, actually turns into an actionable step. But I think that's a big one. And then I think what was huge for us, we kind of really hit the ceiling. We got to over $1 million in revenue back in 2013 and 2012. And then in 2013, we hit the same. We had hired 3 more employees, but still we're at that revenue. It was like not the worst problem to be stuck at $1 million revenue, but then we're like, how can we break through that? And then we actually did a course called the Elite Forum through our CRM Infusionsoft. It's the leaders of that company did this almost a mastermind for companies that were over $1 million in revenue and wanted to grow from there. And that's when we really learned about having the core, what's your purpose? What was our mission? What were our core values? And when we got together with our team and said, let's talk about this. And it didn't just come from the top down, didn't come from just us. We're like, hey, what's important to us? And we talked it out, and it took like 3 hours to do it. And we had maybe, we just, I don't know how many people in the room. I think we only had like 8 or 9 people in the room talking it out. And then we came up with those core values, and we came up with where we want to go. So I think that's a big part. Involving the team is key.
Oh, I like that. And do you incentivize them in any way? I know we talked about the goals, talked about those things, but like employee specific ways that you maybe are incentivized.
Well, we don't compensate anyone like specific, like commission type, but we have a profit sharing plan. So the better we all do, the better we all do, right? And so it's dependent. It's kind of a pretty intricate system. I hired HR firm to build it out and really build something that's going to be sustainable and last the long haul. But when we do set goals for each quarter and each year, when we hit 80% or more of the goal for that quarter, then that funds the profit sharing plan. There's enough profits to be able to go in, and that gets distributed to all our employees with no cap. So if we have an amazing quarter, everyone has an amazing quarter. So it kind of gets the whole team together. It doesn't matter if you're editing the audio for the podcast, or if you're running the syndication department, or if you're you're the webmaster. It doesn't matter. Everyone gets a piece of the pie because everyone's important to it.
Wow. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. The rising tide raises all ships.
Absolutely. Love that.
So, a little pivot, but I wanted to ask, a few more questions and what's a way recently, Rich, that you all have improved your business, that we could all apply to ours, and maybe something that we haven't discussed?
Oh, good question. That we've improved our business. I would say in the last 6 months is really getting our leadership team together. Like I said, there's 7 of us, our 5 directors, Kathy and me, getting together in person every quarter. And we're a 100% remote company. We changed about 3 years ago. We closed our offices down up in Walnut Creek, California, and now we're 100% remote. So we do a lot of things with Zoom and GoToMeeting and Skype and using Basecamp and all that. But there's nothing like that human connection face to face. So I think that's a big one, is getting our directors together face to face for 2 days and really going over where are we, what's working, what's next. Magic happens in that.
How often are you all doing that?
Every quarter.
Every quarter.
Yeah. Every quarter we do it for a 2-day get together. We fly everyone in. A lot of times we fly everyone into LA and we meet around here, and it's really powerful.
So what is your best advice for caring for investors? I know that may not be your task in the company, but I know you're very experienced in this topic. But I like to ask, everybody that are dealing with investors and working with investors, it's just your best advice for caring for them.
Yeah, we're passionate about that. Kathy and I are very balanced in our passion for that, and it's very high. There's a few things. We have investment counselors. We have 4 investment counselors, and they're experienced in real estate. They've invested in single family properties, which is like half our business is referring people to single family properties around the country. And then half of our business is raising funds for syndications and doing development, mostly land entitlement and residential builds for that. It's kind of our lane, So it's like we go to these conferences and meet a lot of apartment guys, and we're almost kind of jealous, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. But we're like, it's not our lane, let them, you guys know what you're doing there. And we focused on the single family and the development. So, so what was the question again? I'm sorry, I got lost.
Yeah, just caring for investors, just your best investor.
Okay. So I was talking about the investment counselors. So there's a big piece. So our membership is free to join Rolf Network. And like I said, we have over 46,000 people now who are members of the network. So they get access to a member portal where they can go and they can see property teams, they can look at the syndications, they can get the overview, watch videos. Tons of free education is another way we care for our investors. We've produced over almost 600 free educational webinars. Every Thursday, we do an hour-long educational webinar, and we've been doing that since day one. So That's a big one. And then
those aren't just 5-minute videos. I mean, you said an hour long.
Those are
60
an hour long every Thursday. Now we actually do Tuesday and Thursday. The Tuesday's more for newer investors, and it's more educational, like the basics of real estate investing or the basics on a certain market. And then the Thursday we go in deep and really look right at the project or whatever it is. So a lot of that. We have the Real Wealth Investor Academy that's free, which is hundreds of videos and blogs and all this content. So really about our purpose is to help people create real wealth. And that 50,000 people that we want to hit by the end of 2020 is if we can do something to either change a mindset or educate someone or help them get a property or help them buy a unit in a syndication, then we've done something to help them create real wealth. So that's how we're kind of tracking that. And then after every strategy session, so our investment counselors offer free strategy sessions that last about 40, 45 minutes. And that's really coaching focused, looking at what do you want, but with the investor, with the member, what do you want? What are you looking for? What's your experience now? What's getting in your way? What questions you have? And then after that, we follow up with a kind of a rating. And how would you rate your strategy session from a 0 to 10? Most of them come in around 8 or 9, sometimes 10. But if we get something like a 5 or 6, then we're right on the phone calling that person. How can it be better? What do you need from us? So a lot of care.
Wow. No, that's awesome.
And communication too. Of course, communication is a huge way to care for members and care for investors.
Sure. Any special thing about the way you all communicate that's maybe out of the ordinary?
It's out of the ordinary. I would say that there's no pitch and there's no push. We always say, and we do that's another thing we do every month. We do a live event that's free. We usually have about 150, 200 people up in the Bay Area, and usually about 80 to 120 people down in LA. Where this week we're leaving for Cleveland, where we do an Eastern event, or probably about 200 people there that are all like kind of the East Coast fans of Kathy's podcast. And it's funny because she'll say how many people heard of us through the podcast. It's like almost every hand in the room goes up. So that's another one, is providing that, and having these live events where investors can come and learn and we say, leave your wallet at home. We are the anti-guru, so never any pressure sales. I think that really sets us apart.
Wow. And if you could pick one thing that's contributed to your success, what would it be?
One thing, I'm going to say questions. I'm going to say question because that's what I learned through my coach training. And Kathy's also a certified coach. We went through a 1.5-year program that was very intensive, and it's all about how to ask powerful questions and draw out from someone instead of telling them what to do. A great book called Multipliers, great book. It's all about how the best leaders make everyone smarter and everyone better. So it's very much about drawing out. So I would say I was going to say people. The people on our team are the greatest contributors to our success, the people in our network, our members. And I think to bring the best out in people, it's learning how to ask the most powerful questions and draw out from them instead of telling them what to do.
Nice. Multipliers. I haven't read that one.
Great book.
I'll look it up. And then before we go, how do you like to give back? I know you've already mentioned these big goals, how you all are giving back, but any specific other way that we haven't talked about how you all like to give?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool one because we got aligned around that. Like, what do we want to donate to? What do we want to raise? And it was really wild when we got clear on that mission of raising over $1 million for these 4 charities by the end of 2020. It just it took our team and just really solidified everyone kind of like, hey, this is what we're about. It's more than just my paycheck. It's more than just the profit sharing plan. It's more about than just trying to, raise millions of dollars in syndication money. It's like, wow, when we take a percentage of that, when we take a percentage of our profits and we donate it, and we know that the better the company does, the more kids we're going to be able to get surgery for cleft palate and cleft lip, the more homes we're going to be able to build through Habitat for Humanity, the more micro loans we get to make through Mentors International. It's like, and that's been a huge one. It's really exciting. Love it.
That is exciting. Thank you for sharing that, Rich. Richie, I really appreciate your time, and Kathy's as well, and just you sharing your expertise with all the listeners and myself. But tell them how they can get in touch with you.
Probably our website is the best bet, Real Wealth Network. Yeah, realwealthnetwork.com. It's all right there. It's like I said, and we have all our educational content, the videos and everything. We used to have a paid academy where people would pay $10 a month and we would donate that money to the Real Wealth Foundation, which I just said for raising the money. And a couple of years ago, we said, you know what? We want more people to have access to this content. So instead of doing that, we opened it all up, everything that we had built as an academy, opened it up for the public for free. So that's on realwealthnetwork.com.
Nice. Thank you so much, Rich. I appreciate your time today. Appreciate the listeners being with us today and every day, and we will talk to each of you again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by Life Bridge Capital. Life Bridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. Life Bridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.